So this week, it's a little bit different from the usual episodes because I'm going to talk about runarounds, modern runarounds. Runarounds in my mind that are quickly becoming modern classics. And I also want to prove a point that you don't have to spend an awful lot of money to get a lovely car. Cars that'll give you dependable service for many years to come. So I'm going to discuss 3 cars that have been knocking around my house for years now, doing just that. The Mercedes E-Class Estate, the BMW 318i, and a little dark horse, the Nissan Micra K11. And also along the way, I'm going to focus on typical things that occur with these cars. Jobs that when performed and maintained are common things that keep these cars from an early death at the scrapyard. So as you can see, this is the first of the bunch. This is the Mercedes E-Class Estate, which I purchased probably, I don't know, about 10 years ago. And it's served the family really well. You can throw the dogs in the back, you can throw all the kids in the back, you can make a mess. They're just a great workhorse. I think at the time, back in the 90s, they were probably 40 to 50 grand to buy. But you know, you can pick them up relatively cheap now. Okay, they're starting to climb in value. But what a car for the money. I mean, for a few grand, look at it. Come and take a look at the interior. Very luxurious cars. Plenty of room in the back for the kids. You can make a mess. And look at this. So it's a 7-seater. That comes down flat, so you can use it to, you know, fill it up with boxes of ale or whatever you want. Or you can just throw the dogs in the back, clip them in. And they're just fantastic workhorses. Really robust cars, really reliable. And for the money, I mean, this is just past an MOT yet again, no advisories. So, what a car. But just 2 days ago, it didn't look like this. It looked like this. Because for 18 months, due to a gearbox problem, believe it or not, this car's sat in my driveway, gathering leaves and gathering dirt. As you know, I've been pretty busy over the last 18 months. But rather than keep looking at this sad old donkey wasting away, I decided to dig in and spend a couple of days and get it back to the Shire horse it once was. So, let's drop the oil and get stuck in. Known as one of the last quality Mercedes-Benz being built, these models were renowned for being bulletproof. But as the miles rack up over the years, these can develop a problem in losing their capacity to select gears in their auto boxes. And 9 times out of 10, it'll be wear in the conductor plate. And a quick check in the pan for swarf, and there's none, which is good. But oil in here is not. These round connector plugs can cause real problems. If the O-rings fail, this will cause contamination where oil can travel up the electrical pipe into the gearbox TCU control unit in the engine bay. This plate has 9 bolts in all, 4 this end and 4 on the other end, with one kind of in the middle, probably to hold the plate because it's really heavy when you're dropping it. Okay, so as you can see, this is removed from the gearbox. This is your conductor plate. Just take this cover off. So right, here you've got your line and shift solenoids. That's your 2 to 3 and 3 to 4, which is also a shift solenoid, and it doubles up with this one here, which is the 2 to 3 solenoid, and then you've got your torque converter lock-up solenoid as well. Basically, you've got to take these off because this connects the conductor plate to this heavy plate underneath. You take these off, you keep them in exactly the same order and replace them in exactly the same order, otherwise you've got problems. Because they look exactly the same when they come off, so it's probably best to do a little drawing or something and just put them on the place where they should go, so you can just replace like for like. This just clips off quite easily. The new one clips on, and guys, it's all about cleanliness. No dirt, make sure your gloves are clean, just be really careful what you're doing there because it's very sensitive as you can imagine. When these bolts are refitted, torque them up to 8 Nm, no more, no less. You'll find if you have difficult shifting in the morning from 2 to 3, so it's basically screaming in second gear and then suddenly it clonks into third, it's nearly always your torque converter lock-up solenoid, so sometimes it's best to replace this as well, but I've got no qualms because I'm happy with the way it shifts, and like I said, it's just a run around. So I'm not going to be upgrading anything. You can upgrade these brown ones here, these brown solenoids, and apparently it gives you a better drive and a cleaner change and a little bit more power, but like I say, it's a run around. I'm really happy with the way it drives and shifts, so hopefully you know, before I lost traction that was, but now I think this conductor plate will solve the problem. Fingers crossed. Let's get it back in there, eh? And then again with the 230 bit, make sure everything's torqued up carefully to 8 Nm. Now a brand new one of these should come as part of the kit, so this is a must do when performing this task. And as it goes back in, take your time using the correct Mercedes-Benz fluid and get your levels bob on. Then top tip is to drive the car around for 45 minutes and then check your levels once and for all. Take you for a drive, shall we? They feel really solid, these cars, as well. And obviously I want to see whether the work I've done on it has worked, because it just totally lost traction. It wouldn't go into gear. And normally the main culprit is the conductor plate, which I've replaced, as you've seen, and so far so good. What it was doing, it was making like a high-pitched noise, and then about 5 minutes later it'd completely lose traction and I'd be stuck at the side of the road. So I'd take the key out, start the car up, drive a couple of 100 yards, the same thing would happen again. So it looks to me like it's sorted. Lovely smooth gear changes, plenty of power. It's a 240 this, which is probably, I think the 200 was the smallest. This is probably the next one up. So it's got a pretty small engine in, but how much poke do you need? This is perfect. I mean, look at this. At the time it was sold as, I suppose, you know, the upper middle class type guy with the dogs in the back and, you know, the gun compartment in the back, living in the countryside. You know, just perfect for the countrified guy with a little bit of cash. But it's slowly worked its way down to the working classes, which is how it ended up with me. Let's open it up a bit, eh? And you know, considering this car's 20 odd years old, You know, it's still going strong. There's no rot on the car. I think when these cars originally came out, there was a problem with cars in the late 90s. I think there was 2 years where there was a shortage of steel. So the Mercedes-Benz factory was shipping in steel. I think it was from Poland, and it was basically compromised steel. So what happened, the front wings, the rear wings, the rear boot lid, and the bonnet were going rusty. So Mercedes, a year down the line or 2 years down the line, recalled them all, even if they didn't have that problem. And out of goodwill, they replaced the wings and the bonnet and the boot or whatever needed doing. It was just a shame, really, because it almost gave them a bad name, which, you know, we all know. Mercedes-Benz just says excellence, doesn't it? I mean, throughout the years, they've made probably right up there with the best cars in the world.
So on to the next one.
So here we are, the Nissan Micra. This is the second generation. I think they call it the K11. Launched in 1992, and in 1993, believe it or not, it was voted Car of the Year. I mean, if you look at the interior, it's pretty gaudy, to say the least. Whoever came up with this design, well, it must have been high on drugs. But I suppose it's very 90s. You know, it was very of the time, of the decade. If I was going to say anything about these cars, they're probably not that economical on a long journey. I mean, for a 900cc car, you'd expect a little bit more. It's got plenty of oomph for a 900cc. It's a very comfortable car. And believe it or not, I drive this to London sometimes. You know the way London's like difficult to park, you can never find a parking space, and when you do, it's scratched, it's dented. I jump in this sometimes, drive to London, it's lovely and comfortable. As I say, not great on the juice, but what a lovely little car. The road tax is high. They're costly to insure, believe it or not, because I think they're trying to do away with them. Yeah, so what a great little car. And for a Japanese car, it was really well made. You know, the ignitions were spot on. Just have a look at this when I turn the key. And believe it or not, these have become like a cult figure amongst young classic car enthusiasts. These cars are rallied all over the world as well. I mean, they look a little bit different to this. You know, they put skirts on them and all the numbers and the lines and the stripes and everything else, but they're a cracking little rally car.
And you know, on a recent visit to this month's Cars and Coffee on the dock in Liverpool, it was a nice surprise to see a double show of two fine specimens, cementing the K11 as one of today's fast appreciating modern classics. Heavily attended, Cars and Coffee is held on the final Sunday of every month, with an eclectic mix of both old and modern classics, so there's something for everyone, plus a cup of coffee and a pork bun to ward off that cold weather. Anyway, back to the job in hand. I bought this car for about £300 12 years ago. I've taught all three daughters to drive in it, and it keeps coming back like a bad penny, or a good penny I should say. But you know, they're not without the problems, and one of the most common things to go on these is the CV joints on the front. And at just £20 each off eBay, come on, it's a job well worth doing. And of course, I couldn't leave them scabby brakes on, could I? So a new set of them, with new discs, job done. And just when I thought it was done, when the car was parked up, some idiot decided to go down the side of it with a skip. Oh well. And once again, because the cost of this repair outweighs the value of the car, this is another one that probably would have ended up in the scrapyard. But you know, with a second-hand wing and a door skin off eBay and a day's work, if you fancy doing a bit yourself, good as new. And another one saved, as they say. You know, you could say it's not good for your credibility driving around in one of these, but you know what? I don't care. My image went clean out of the window years ago when I started walking two little black pugs. Oof. Well, that's a bit of rot I didn't see. So the only door I could get hold of was a bright red one. But once I've done my repairs, and it's painted back to silver, it's all put back together, and then it goes back in. Now look, I know I mentioned before about it being a day's work, but then if it suddenly decides to snow, whatever. That'll do.
And then the next one, here we have BMW 318i. Now, I think in the 90s, these were known as like the yuppie car. Anyone with a bit of cash or a little bit flash, this was the car for them. And they're really, again, great, robust, reliable cars. And, you know, you can pick these up for basically nothing money. They're just not worth very much. But again, I'm sure it's appreciating classic. And in a couple of years' time, these will really come up in value. Reliability at its best. You can't kill a BMW, as they say. Although these, as well as the modern BMWs, have all got an inherent problem where you can be out of the car for a couple of days, you've got the key in your pocket, you go to the garage and the blowers are on in the car. And this goes right the way through the last 20 years. Why BMW haven't sorted it, I don't know, because what it does in actual fact, it runs your battery. Every single day or other day you'll come and your battery will be flat, so you've got to put an isolator on the battery. So come on BMW, sort this one out.
Now, another common problem with these BMWs is a plastic water jacket which conveniently sits inside the middle of the engine. These crack after time, and unless replaced, they'll end up destroying the whole engine. Its accessibility is a joke, but rather than strip the top of the engine along with its ancillaries, as you can see, I opted for keyhole surgery. Tricky, but if you take your time, it's all doable. Now, believe it or not, my next door neighbour Christine gave this car to me because it was sitting on a driveway. She couldn't afford to MOT it or tax it or insure it, and it had been sitting on a driveway for 2 years rotting away. And after an oil and filter change, job done. And a quick MOT revealed 2 lower wishbones and 2 rear shock absorbers to get it back on the road. Now this is pretty straightforward as it goes, but this stabiliser bar has to be removed in order to get to the bolts to remove the wishbone. And of course, when I'm done, every bolt needs to be torqued up to the correct torque setting. So then we move on to the brakes. This is like Groundhog Day, this. Jeez, look at the state of them. New pads and sensors, bit of a clean up. Job done. Well, he's not amused. Now, another thing that's often neglected in these cars is the fuel filter. I've seen these become so clogged over the years the car won't even run. They're not cheap, but I'm going to do it anyway. Just make sure you follow the arrow and make sure the direction of fuel feed is correct. Then we're on to the shocks. And you know, when you think about it, just for the sake of a few quid and a day's work, it's another car back on the road.
There you go, guys. Another job I'm happy I did. kept it from the scrapyard once again. Here's to another 15, 20 years more dependable driving. Look, I know it's not a Rolls-Royce, but you know, this is a classic of the future. It's already becoming a classic. As well as the Micra, as well as the BM. It's like, you know, these are all cars that can be picked up relatively cheaply, and you got years of dependable driving if you just do a little bit of maintenance on them. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. A little bit different from the usual episode, and as you know, we'll be back with a Porsche or a Roller or something for the rest of you out there. Once again, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching this episode of Classic Obsession. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. And see you all next time.